Hello and welcome. In this video I will show you how to do backup and restore of data from Datastore and how to migrate data from Frings Beryllium to Frings Boron. I have two VMs. On the left side I have VM running Frings Beryllium distribution, and on the right side I have a Frings Boron. I have also the netconf server, which is just the test tool running on the Frings Beryllium VM. Let me load the features. So we are going to load RESTconf, netconf, group-based policy, and DEXIM. DEXIM is a project called Data Export Import, which was introduced in ODL in Carbon release. We backported this project to the Beryllium and Boron, which allows us to migrate data from Beryllium to Boron, and also to provide us backup functionality. I prepared the Postman collection, which we will use for putting data to Datastore, reading data from Datastore, and for doing backup and restore. As you can see, the Datastore is empty on the Beryllium node, so I can start to put data. The first request is sending the endpoint, is basically endpoint registration, where RPC implementation stores this endpoint to operational data store. Then we can send a request for storing netconf node, and this request basically invokes the logic which creates a connection to the netconf server. As you can see, the connection was created successfully. Netconf connector also announce this netconf node to the inventory subtree in operational and config data store. Now we can have a look at the status of a DEXIM. So no export was scheduled, so let's schedule an export. We can schedule the export, which will do the dump of operational and config data store into the JSON files. But we don't want to export the whole data stores. We want to exclude some elements. So in that case, we need to put these excluded module statements, which says that I don't want to export inventory from operational and config data store, and I don't want to export network topology from operational data store. I don't want to export this operational data store topology because it contains the real state of the netconf connection. So I want to export only the intent, which is stored in configurational data store. Let me have a look at the time. So we have 35. So let's schedule it for 36. And as you can see, the export was scheduled. Please do not forget that you have to specify the Zulu time for the export. And based on the time, now we should see that status is changed to complete. As you can see, there are 3 files. In the first one is basically backup of the config data store. In the second is backup of operational data store. And the third one contains all Yang models, or list of Yang models which were in a system during the export. So after we exported the content, we can have a look at the JSON files. So as you can see, from operational data store, we exported only the endpoint because we excluded the topology and also the inventory. And in configurational, and from configurational data store, we exported the topology and some GBP data. So basically, the inventory in config file is missing because we excluded that. Now, when I want to do the restore, I basically will do the migration from beryllium to boron. So I need to copy Dexim folder from distribution folder to the boron distribution. So I copied it to the shared folder. This shared folder is shared between these two VMs. So in a boron VM, I am gonna copy it to the distribution folder. And now I can go back to the Postman where I have a request for an import. But before that, I have to change the environment because I had set the beryllium node, which is IP address 103. So I need to change this to the boron node, which is 104. So now all these requests go to the boron node. As you can see, data store on boron node is empty. So let's do the import. In an import, you can set whether you want to check Yang models which were listed in a file, in an exported file, and it will compare it with the list of Yang models loaded in a system. Because we have a different Yang models in a beryllium and different Yang models in a boron, it will complain that it cannot be, the import can be done successfully. Therefore, I put false here. Um, and you can also specify whether you want to delete the data store before import is done or you just want to do the import. Because we have empty data store, I will just do the import. So now data should be imported. We can have a look at the netconf topology in configurational data store. So basically this is a request for connection to the netconf server, and in operational data store we can see that now the boron Frinks distribution is connected to netconf node. And when I have a look at the endpoint, you can see that we have an endpoint in operational data store. Inventory should be empty because we didn't export those data. Okay, so as you can see, the migration between beryllium and boron is easy when the Yang models were not changed. So in case that Yang models are changed from beryllium to boron, you have to modify those data in a JSON files. Thank you very much. Bye.